So the next export we are going to do again is going to be out of SketchUp sort of, and really it's going to be our rendering export. And the key thing is you need to be able to use a render engine that works off of SketchUp's camera, and typically it's going to be rendering programs that work within SketchUp, such as V-Ray or Visualizer. And if you don't know Visualizer, it's actually a free program. Used to be a paid one, but they shut down shop and just basically put their last version out for free for anybody to use. It's actually a really cool program that you can see other tutorials on. But right now, we're just going to go ahead and start the Visualizer program right here within SketchUp. And this will actually take quite a bit of time. It's going to pop up here. It's a black screen right now because it's processing, and I'm going to adjust some quick settings. I want to make sure that we have our image settings set to be what we're using, what we exported out our SketchUp for. And you can see right here this 2261 matches what we're doing in SketchUp. This 4000 doesn't, but that's okay. It's just going to end up cropping it just a little bit. And actually I think I might want to do this backwards. I think I might adjust this real quick. Actually I'm not. I remembered that these are set this way for a specific reason, that the height needs to be the controlling number. So that's why I set it. So the height is going to be the controlling number in keeping the aspect properly set up with what we're doing in SketchUp. But I do want to make a couple other quick adjustments using this program. I'm going to enable enhanced materials. I'm going to set my noise to be reduced to most and to despeckle the most. Basically, it's going to end up being the highest settings that this program can render. And here I want to set my exposure level. I'm going to put it into a dark corner so that it's going to expose this, trying to give as much detail into the darker corners as possible. And again, we can still play with some of that once we get into Photoshop. But that's really it. This is probably one of the easiest rendering programs that's out there, and does a fairly quality job. I do like using programs like Lumion or whatnot to create higher level of photorealistic renderings. The problem with that in this particular process is there is no way to correlate the camera within Lumion and SketchUp. They just don't match up, and there's no way to specifically match them up so that we can composite the images in Photoshop, which is why we have to use these internally built render engines. But again, we're not going for photorealistic, so we don't need a very high-end render engine. We really just want one that does a good enough job, because we're going to edit this image anyway. But what's great and what we're really going to be able to get at, as you can see already, the reflections of the trees and the windows is definitely one of the things that we really want to be able to capture. That's going to really help us give some life to this image. So I'm just going to lock this image so that I can't accidentally adjust any settings, and we are going to let this render for quite some time. I believe down here it's calculating the amount of time it'll take to fully render this, although we can take a snapshot at any time and build it into our model, and then really if we wanted to, we could actually continue on working using say this image right here, and then once it's done rendering we can swap out the finished image with this image. but we don't need to do that. We can let this one render and use the final image and move forward with that. So I believe this will actually take about 9 hours to fully render, although realistically we should have something that's quite a quality image within 15, 20, 30 minutes, even an hour. But I'll probably just let this run overnight and we can come back and look at it once it's complete. So just a quick update. This has been going for maybe half an hour. You can see it's starting to look pretty good. Still some speckling, you can see in the windows, and a little bit of roughness in the textures. Again, it's only been going for about half an hour. This is calling for, it's looking like an additional 18 hours to finish cooking. Though that's just to completely cook it. In reality, we'll probably have a fairly complete image much sooner than that. But again, setting it before you leave work and letting it run overnight and coming back in the morning to a pretty complete image is probably the best way to go. So anyway, I'll try and give some more updates as we move along. Okay, and so here we are after about 1 hour of rendering, and even though ultimately if I was trying to do this more photorealistic, I would probably let this render a little longer. But for now, I think we have hit a sweet spot that'll work for what we want to do. Again, since we're shooting for the NPR, the non-photorealistic type of imagery, and we're really going to filter this anyway. I think we can go ahead and use this image. And again, in this particular program, I can just come down here and I can take a snapshot. And so it just took an image of exactly where it's at, and it's actually still rendering. So I can actually just continue to let this run and eventually replace the file that we just took a snapshot with the final version. So let's go ahead and move on to the next steps, and now that we have all of our output files.